Hello everybody, this is the sixth episode of Captured in the Psych Ward. It's been a bit of a good series so far. This is the sixth episode, okay? Here it goes. So the day after the dreadful domestic violence that was near Ron's flat, Ron got up from the couch and said to himself, "This is the first time since 1987 I have fallen asleep on the couch." And that was in university. You see, I did do it when I am tired, and Ron saw on the TV that those killers killed Jack, and Ron's neighbour, who is Peter Ronda, is at the watch house waiting for Ron to pick him up and take him to the HDU. You see, Ron knows Pete very well. You see, his parents and Pete's parents used to have card games at each other's houses, and I am sure that Ron and Pete played with each other, but in hindsight what happened that night is not good. And Ron left his house and headed towards the watch house and picked up Pete to bring him to the HDU, and they arrived at the HDU at approximately 9:30, and Ron brought Pete toward the HDU and then went back to the office to clock in, and then went into the HDU and had a talk to Pete, and Pete told Ron that people are teasing him left, right and centre, and he needs to get the teasing out of his brain. You see, Pete was hearing words like "fuck you," and saw his best mates who liked him when he was a boy coping with everything he does, because back then Pete was a retarded circus monkey. You see, Pete was seeming the only one getting teased. You see, the bloke in his head will sit up straight saying, "You are a little young dude, and you will never be like us anymore." Ron did his rounds while talking to everyone. He started with Martin Kelly, who was very angry with every nurse and doctor, and came to his deck and call last night, and Ron asked him why. Must that be? And Martin was hearing a voice from his past saying, "You're a scum! We don't like you anymore, Martin. We don't like you anymore, Martin." And then Anne left her room, and then Martin said, "Martin, I will never like a pedophile. I will never like a pedophile. You see, Martin, I am captured in solitary in the psych ward today. I am captured in solitary in the psych ward today. We are captured. We are captured. We are captured in the psych ward. In the psych ward today. But. And then Ron went next door to George's room, and like Martin, he gave the medication and had a yarn. And George said, "Well, dudes, I'm hearing my old mates trying to make them treat me like a daddy so I can say I am not your daddy." And then Ron went over to the TV room to give Robert his medication. And the psychologist said, "You are going to be let out today. I hear that. You have been good." And Robert said, "Okay, thanks." And like any kid, was happy, but didn't want to show he was happy. Because last night Brad said, "You're still getting teased, Robert, because you're still a little baby kid who doesn't know what the world is really about yet." And Ron said, Who the Blue Blazers said you were that?" And Robert said, "Well, when I was young, I used to be picked on by my parents and a few school friends, as well as our few enemies as well. And the worst teasing came from my best mate. You see, Ron, I ain't into being a robber's kid, or a Kamara kid, or a retarded kid. I just want everyone to stop saying that I am still getting teased, you see. Nobody has teased me in the past, and I find the itchiness is showing signs that I am improving in the spiritual world. And Ron said to Robert, how does a kid your age understand about spiritual awakening? And Anne said to the nurse's door, and are you cunts ever going to let me out? I am busting for a cigarette. I really need one. Urgently. Urgently. Right now. You see, I need you guys to grant me some leave. Only for 30 minutes, though. Just enough to get me through. And they were just about to grant it to Anne, and then Pete walked in. And they left Anne's request and moved over to Pete. And Anne said, what the bloody fuck? Why can't you give my request? And Ron said, for the simple reason that Pete is a new patient and we have to attend to him. So Anne, just be patient. You will get your leave. So be patient, love. Be patient. And Ron and the nurses showed Pete to his room and then sat down and talked to him about why did he use a gun on his girl last night. And Pete said, sometimes I have these voices in my head saying, you are not a man. You are too wussy to be a man. And the voice is coming from some old friends who he really liked at school. One voice says, you are doing what we want you to do. We want you to kill your wife and slice her up, and you will be a hooligan. And Ron said, only daddies treat people like hooligans. You see, they treat them like a hooligan in protection of being mugged or kidnapped by anyone in this world. Then the voice, woosey, was planted in Pete's head. It went, woosey, 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 woosey. And every day, Pete had to cope with that. It had that awful charm of a dentist drill. Really, drilling right into his mouth, well, it's the voices in his head that Pete wanted to get out. And yes, being a family person is not what Pete wanted. But he got it when he got his girl pregnant. And the word woosey, 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 woosey was planted in his brain. And Robert walked past and said, how can a voice like that get planted in your brain and cause all these problems? And Pete said, well, little dude, when you're older, you'll understand schizophrenia and what happens when you are paranoid. And everyone thinks you are putty to a tease. Nobody wants to get teased. I mean, nobody wants to get fought. Nobody, kid. Just listen. Well, when I tell you this, okay, Anne walked past and said, you are a bit of a wussy, don't you think? You're a bit of a wussy. You are. And Ron chased up things all day for Pete. So much, in fact, when it came to clock off, he was happy too. And went to the Golden Inn and ate Chinese food. And then bought a 6-pack of beer and sat down and watched the Colton-Richmond match. And he had a day off. Getting pissed is the best thing to do. And after the match, well, Ron was too tired and again fell asleep on the couch. Oh, okay, so that was a great kind of thing. Episode 6 of that's another episode of Captured in the Psych Ward. Just imagine being called woosey, 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 woosey in your head 100 times. Okay, thanks.